Hello YouTube, it's me again, back with another video, and this time it's another OC Universe introduction. I do want to briefly warn you that there is a fan in the background. It's very hot where I live right now. It's pretty hot everywhere in the world right now, so forgive me, but you may hear my fan in the background. I'm sorry. You should be able to spot that the OC introductions, a little bit more easily by the thumbnail, because I'm going to be designing little, miniature logos for the bottom right-hand corner of the various universes. You should be able to spot the one that I designed for Gilded Discord. I did it in the introduction thumbnail, so it's in the little right-hand corner in the bottom. And hopefully that helps you kind of identify what I'm going to be doing in a video and which universe a character belongs to. I will also be putting them in their own separate playlists as I release them, so that if you want to see, for instance, all of the Gilded Discord characters, they will be in a playlist so you can see the world introduction and then the various characters, provided I finish making all of them. There are a lot. I will try to link the Gilded Discord universe introduction in the end card of this video, so that you guys can go and watch that if you haven't. But yeah, I had to script myself for this one, and I've already gotten off script. Oh lord, this is gonna be interesting. I'll probably get off topic. So anyway, speaking of topics, this video is introducing the world of Demon. I mentioned this in the description of my watercolor painting of Marie that I did on my channel recently, and I had some requests to show off these characters in this universe, and I'm thrilled to announce that this is the first time drawing most of those characters, which is a lot of fun for me. Though I have done fan art of one of the couples in this, and I drew the old design and use the old name of Drake, who you will see me drawing in this video, so that's an interesting little tidbit. I've drawn Crane, Jensen, Drake, and I think one other, and I will let you decide which which mix of characters is the ship. Anyway, so I'm trying to reread my script now because I've gotten off script again. This is what happens when I try and script myself. Okay, so what is this story about? Demon, sometimes referred to as Crow because that was the original name of the novel this universe is based around. It has since become 4 novels, by the way, fun fact. It exists in the modern day world we live in now, with the added perk that supernatural monsters, spirits, powers, and entities exist, including angels and demons. In case the title didn't, kind of tip you off on that one there a little bit. Whatever. This world isn't completely super originals, angels and demons. But you know what? I put my own little twist on it. Alright, so I will tell you a little bit of the backstory of this world. I had to write it all out, and that was actually really helpful for me. Because I had never actually fully written out exactly how that all goes down. So being able to write it out was very helpful. Anyway, so it all revolves around angels and demons coming together sort of by accident and finding a prophecy. So they find the prophecy eons before the modern age. The origin of this prophecy is a complete mystery. Demons say that it was Lucifer who is in his cage in the bottom of the hellscape. That's what I call hell. Fun fact, in this world I call hell the hellscape. That's fun. The demons credit Lucifer and the angels credit God. But neither has ever really spoken up and said, oh yeah man, it was me. Lucifer can't, and God just hasn't. So, whoever wrote it, what it says is definitive. Someday, there will come into existence 2 beings. One, the perfect midpoint between human and demon, and the other, a perfect midpoint between human and angel. These individuals will meet. The demon halfling will either destroy the angel and set Lucifer loose upon the world, Lucifer loose, I didn't realize that when I wrote it, or will be persuaded to the light by the angel and will stop the insidious plan to free the devil side by side. Immediately, angels and demons begin to scour the world for what the prophecy could mean by the perfect midpoint between a human and a demon or angel. Such a thing was completely unheard of. There were Nephilims, which were the unholy and forbidden union of an angel and a demon, but never before had they been able to create any sort of offspring or botched possession that resulted in the birth of a halfling in any capacity. Both sides searched the ends of the earth to find any knowledge on the matter, but nothing seemed to fit the description. Enter the demon Pharsalus, who created the devious plan of taking a low-level demon, reducing them to their essence, which would destroy them completely. It took away their autonomy, awareness, sentience, all of it. It basically removed them from the plane of existence, and infusing that essence into the soul of a human, which would, in theory, merge the human soul and demonic essence to create a halfling. Considering there aren't exactly ethical guidelines for experimentation in the hellscape, this sadistic act was performed hundreds of times. Low-level demons were sacrificed and stuffed into humans. At first, they attempted to shove the souls into able-bodied humans who would be adequate to serve their purposes. Someone who was tough and strong and who could serve as, like, the ideal, I hate to say meat soup, but the ideal meat soup. The experiment sometimes killed the human host, and sometimes was completely rejected and ineffectual. It sometimes caused the person to lose their mind and become, in a sense, completely useless, which is really sad. It's really sad. It gets a little dark, but I enjoy it anyway. I'm a little dark, let's be real. So it was around this time that the angels were starting to piece together what the demons were doing, and they had figured out at this point that the demons were doing something. They weren't really sure what. So they sent out a bunch of angels to try and figure out what was going on, and they were scouring the world, every corner of the world possible, to try and figure out what the demons were doing, how, and why. So they scan the world for any sign of this demonic plan to figure out what is going on. So it's not until the Archangel Michael notes the traces of demonic essence inside of a mental patient and realizes what's been going on. So he took his findings to heaven, gave the poor, unfortunate soul, finally, set him to rest, and began to kind of figure out how he was going to intervene. It was then that another angel, an angel by the name of Ramiel, presented the idea to Michael that maybe the angels should make a similar sacrifice in order to make a halfway point of their own. Michael was really on the fence about it. He thought that would make them just as bad as the demons, and that it really wouldn't fit with what the angels were supposed to do. They were supposed to protect humanity and follow God's will. That's what they're supposed to do, and it just felt kind of wrong. But he kind of figured out that adult bodies were not turning up anymore, which meant that either the demons had figured out what was going on, had transitioned to another form of experimentation, or that they had stopped. But the risk that they had found success, or that they had moved on to something worse, was too great. So Michael decides he's going to sign off on this thing, and that would end up being really sad, because a young friend of his, a newer, younger angel by the name of Anaphiel, or Anaphiel, I haven't decided how I want to pronounce her name yet, kind of steps up to be the first sacrifice, and she is destroyed, and Michael feels so guilty and so just racked with guilt and grief, and he decides that if this is what's going to happen, and if this is the tragedy that will have to kind of rain down upon heaven and hell and earth, he is going to make sure that none of the demon spawn, if you will, make it. So he gathers a whole group of angels, and he decides, we are going to set these angels loose upon the world. And so the angels go from continent to continent, landmass, island. They go absolutely everywhere, trying to find every soul with even a trace of demonic essence. If it's a possession, they banish the demon back to the hellscape. If it's anything else, they go after them with no mercy. Unfortunately, what the angels hadn't really figured out was that the reason that the adult body stopped turning up was because Pharsalis had decided that he was going to start experimenting with newborn souls, which are more plastic and more malleable and a little bit easier to possess. And the reason demons and angels don't usually possess infants is because they're obviously rather physically limited. So they decide that they're going to infuse the demon soul into newborns and young children. And that is how they are going to get the infusion to be cohesive enough that you create a perfect halfway mark. That was their plan. And so a lot of the halflings or sort of halflings that the angels would find would be children. And that's obviously just devastating, but the angels did what they had to do. And so it creates this awful, just collateral damage. And the angels, it's not a good situation for anyone with any sort of morality, but the demons don't have that morality. So they keep experimenting, and the angels keep having to fight off and destroy any demonic essence that they can find. And sometimes they're able to save the children, and sometimes they're not. And it's a really just sort of twisted situation that Pharsalis has created. So eventually, the angels kind of decide, well, if this is what's working at least a little bit for the demons, maybe we should try it as well. So they send their own angels into the souls of newborns. And it is a really rough process for everyone involved. And it just becomes a lot of chaos. And there are people who are too demon. Okay, so here's how it works. When the demonic essence is infused into the newborn soul, the fusion is not a science. It is more a happenstance. So there's no way to accurately say, well, if I give this much of this demon, if the demon is this powerful or this weak, it will create the perfect halfway mark. So pretty much every time the experiment was run, if not every time, the subject, if you will, would always end up, if the demon infused at all, and wasn't just sort of pushed out entirely, or angel in this instance, it's demons and angels at this point. If the essence infused at all, it would often be too overbearing, and it would be more demonic or angelic than human, and therefore did not fulfill the prophecy, or there would be too little of the essence left to fulfill the prophecy. And so no one was figuring out how to create the perfect midpoint in either direction. So neither side was succeeding. Well, eventually, after enough experimentation and enough subjects created, some of them are just going to slip through the cracks. The demons aren't going to be able to annihilate all of their competition, and neither are the angels. So eventually, it gets to a point where several of these people that have survived having their essence fused with a demon or an angel are just sort of walking around. And as you can imagine, that's not exactly good for you. Or the people around you, even. So, part of the problem that started cropping up after a while was that these people would attract the supernatural towards them. So, someone with a little bit of this essence infused in them, if there was, say, a lichen, or that's what I'm calling werewolves in this series, they're lichens. That's been used before, but you know what? That just for clarification's sake. If there was a lichen around, that person was much more likely to be sought out and bitten and turned than anyone else in their village. If there was a vampire around, same deal. If there was a spirit, it would appear to that person. If there was any potential for magic inside that person already, they were 99% more likely to achieve incredibly powerful and dangerous forms of magic. They were born with innate abilities like telepathic abilities or telekinetic abilities, fire starters. They were able to astral project, a lot of just a range of abilities that have to do with the supernatural, and afflictions that have to do with the supernatural were forced upon these people who had no idea that they were even infused with any essence at all. So this leads to, obviously, a whole lot of problems, because centuries ago, and I mean even still fairly recently, you having magic isn't exactly a good thing. Many cultures around the world lynched and killed people for having any sort of ability whatsoever. So even though the angels and the demons weren't necessarily killing these people, oftentimes they were being killed by their own kind, by humanity. And if they weren't killed, then they were just kind of screwed by life. Some of them were vampires, and some of them were lichens, and the more of them that there were, the more of these supernatural creatures would persist, because when one of those people would die, they would become a spirit much more likely than anyone else. So there became a great, overwhelming time in history where there were just supernatural creatures kind of everywhere, doing a lot of horrible things and disrupting the flow of the world. And the angels couldn't exactly intervene directly every time because they couldn't always tell what was going to happen. And they were so busy trying to prevent the prophecy from ending the world or stopping the angels from stopping the prophecy in the case of the demons. It was just sort of a mess. And so the humans rose up and they did it themselves. They decided, I am done with all of the supernatural crazy that's going on, and even though they were completely ignorant to the prophecy, a group of humans sprung up, and they decided to fight monsters and the supernatural and bring a balance back to the world. Even though the supernatural would never be gone, they were trying to fight to bring back the balance that used to be in the world. And so this small group eventually turned into a bigger group, eventually turned into a worldwide kind of unspoken alliance of people who would fight the supernatural in order to maintain the balance. So this would be helping with possessions, helping to get rid of pesky werewolf problems or pesky vampire problems, helping to move spirits on, people who were saving psychics and helping witches come to terms with their abilities. And some of these people were even infused with essence but never knew it. And because of that, they were drawn into the supernatural lifestyle and became one of these people, and they just never figured that out. And most of the time, these people were just kind of unable to have kids. So it was never really figured out what would happen if one of these individuals did have kids, because sometimes their kids would come out also infused with a touch of essence, and sometimes, most of the time, they wouldn't. So there was really no way to tell exactly what was happening, and just how it all was going to go down. So basically, by the time we get to the modern age, the balance has mostly been restored in terms of the supernatural world, but because these people are still being infused with the essence, there's still a need for this group of hunters. I have yet to name this organization of hunters, but I want to give it a definitive name so that I'm not just calling them hunters, because that feels a little like I'm ripping off Supernatural and a lot of other stuff that uses similar terminology. I don't want them to just be like monster hunters. I want to have a name. So if you can think of any names, let me know in the comment section down below. I'm very interested. So basically, it all works up to modern day New York. So roughly maybe 2016, 2017. That may change as I keep going. But for the most part, it's tentatively set in 2017. Where it follows a group of characters as they figure out that there is a prophecy, and as their lives are inexplicably drawn into this prophecy. And as everything with said prophecy finally comes to a head. So I will leave it up to you to decide who you think has a role in the prophecy. I'm not going to directly tell you, because what would be the fun in that, you guys? Nothing. There would be no fun in that, so... That said, I think I'm gonna leave it there. I know that these descriptions have been pretty long so far, but this one's been a little short than the Gilded Discord one, so hopefully you don't feel too angry about sitting here for 20 minutes listening to me talk. That said, have a good morning, evening, afternoon, nighttime, time of day, and I will catch you guys in the next video if you're subscribed, which you should be. And if you turn on those post notifications, you'll find out when I post more stuff about more characters and more interesting universes developed within this twisted little brain of mine. I think the next one I'm going to be working on is probably Rutgers, but between now and then, I have a couple other videos coming out. I am working on a long-awaited video that has to do with one of my old series, and one of my old videos, I should say, on this channel. So, I will hopefully see you guys there. I think I'm going to leave you guys to watch the last 6-7 minutes of this video, and I will catch you guys in the next video.